Whispers drift through empty corridors, weaving around those who secretly believe they can unsettle the foundations beneath a spirit forged by storms. In these shadowed exchanges, plans are mapped out with frantic precision, yet each blueprint unravels as quickly as it's drawn. All the force and ingenuity meant to shake a soul anchored in something vast becomes little more than static in the background, barely reaching the surface. Hidden rooms echo with nervous laughter as would-be architects of misfortune rehearse their maneuvers, only to encounter walls that shift like mist. Every attempt to orchestrate chaos circles back in strange, unpredictable ways, leaving the schemers bewildered by invisible resistance. Their efforts, born from calculation and fear, find themselves tangled in unseen vines that quietly tighten with each new plot. From somewhere deep within, there's an unmistakable signal that things are not as they seem. It arrives as a sensation, a silent pulse, as if reality itself leans in to reveal secrets without words. This quiet knowing isn't born from anxiety but from a wisdom that recognizes patterns before they form. The mind might try to rationalize these warnings, but the heart knows when it's being quietly protected. If this message is resonating deeply with you and you're reconnecting with your inner power, make sure to subscribe. This journey is just beginning, and there are more secrets waiting for you. Observing from a distance, it becomes clear that attempts to manipulate fate are met by currents far beyond ordinary understanding. Conspiracies held behind closed doors never quite touch their intended mark, dissolving into confusion and silence. There's a strange poetry in how obstacles designed for harm dissipate before they ever arrive, as if rerouted by hands unseen. In the end, those who scheme are left speaking into the void, bewildered by the absence of expected chaos. The one at the center of their fixation stands quietly, untouched and unburdened, moved by forces they cannot map or measure. Their strength is not in resistance but in an alignment with something deeper, something that renders opposition weightless and all secret meetings irrelevant. Sometimes there's a deep, electric anticipation running beneath ordinary moments, a strange alertness that makes every glance, every word, seem heavy with secret meaning. This heightened perception isn't a curse but a rare gift, the kind of awareness that only those destined for uncommon journeys ever receive. What feels like isolation is actually a badge of honor, a signal that unseen wisdom has chosen to equip certain souls with extraordinary discernment for reasons not yet visible. The very sensitivity that keeps others guessing becomes the armor that keeps destiny intact. Long before trouble announces itself, subtle warnings begin to shimmer at the edges of consciousness. Unexpected flashes of insight appear without explanation, carrying clues about motives and movements that would otherwise stay hidden. These aren't delusions or fears spinning out of control, they're moments of clarity, a quiet intelligence, alive and alert, that makes sense of the undercurrents others never notice. Instinct transforms into navigation, guiding a steady path through uncertain territory, and giving form to what others would call coincidence or paranoia. Something in you woke up while listening. If it did, it's not by accident. Subscribe because the next message might be the one that changes everything. Elsewhere, unknown faces gather in concealed places, exchanging information with the hope of shifting outcomes they don't understand. Files are opened, strategies rehearsed, all in an effort to decode and derail a purpose that won't be moved by ordinary means. Every angle of attack is scrutinized, every possible avenue discussed and dissected, but somehow the target remains one step beyond their reach. In the silence after their meetings, the same question echoes: how can so much energy result in nothing? Endurance isn't forged in comfort but through encounters with resistance that refuse to subdue the soul's original spark. The relentless scrutiny, the attempts to undermine, become a kind of unintentional training, pressure that sharpens, not breaks. The lessons of adversity become the very foundation of strength, while those engineering setbacks find themselves facing outcomes they never anticipated. No matter how elaborate the preparation, no matter how thorough the surveillance, the core cannot be shaken. And as the dust settles after every failed attempt, it becomes clear: whatever invisible power keeps certain lives protected is not subject to ordinary logic or conventional schemes. While adversaries grow weary from the chase, the one they sought to undo stands quietly, unchanged, undiminished, even more resolved. What was meant to be an end becomes the birthplace of something unbreakable, and every hidden maneuver is ultimately woven into a story of unstoppable resilience. It's easy to mistake the sound of thunder for a warning, but sometimes it's the sign that a new season is about to begin. When waves crash hardest against the edge, it's because something precious is anchored deep beneath the surface, and all that commotion is just proof that the foundation cannot be moved. The weight pressing in from every direction isn't evidence of defeat but a signal that unseen hands are molding strength out of what once felt overwhelming. Every surge of pressure, every challenge rising without invitation, is quietly announcing a transition, not a punishment. Hidden layers of potential are coming to life, awakened by the very resistance that tries to bury them. This friction, instead of being a mark of abandonment, is actually a subtle signpost that something rare and unbreakable is being brought to the surface. The struggle isn't here to diminish value but to reveal what's always been protected beneath the noise. That if your spirit feels seen in these words, stay connected. Hit subscribe and let this be your reminder that you're not walking alone anymore. Sometimes, questions echo in the dark, searching for reassurance in silent spaces. Doubt tiptoes through the room, asking if anyone is listening, if care is real, if any of these trials have meaning. Yet, even in the thickest fog, there's a persistent warmth, an inexplicable certainty that what's happening isn't a collapse but a clearing for what's next. The evidence isn't in the lack of conflict, but in the ability to remain standing, undeterred by every gust. Looking for calm as a measure of safety often misses the deeper truth. Survival itself is the truest indicator of a force that shields when storms rage. If there were no shelter, every blow would have left permanent scars. But the mere fact that persistence outlasts hardship, that belief endures when logic says to surrender, is a quiet testament to something beyond ordinary luck. Endurance becomes the banner, not because the journey was smooth, but because every obstacle was crossed with a spirit that refused to be extinguished. No blueprint for a life of meaning is free from opposition. Obstacles are the unspoken proof that the journey matters. All across time, those who discovered what they were made of did so not in fields of ease but in landscapes shaped by trial. The path, though scattered with unexpected tests, is a kind of signature. One written in courage, proof that protection isn't the absence of adversity but the power to rise, again and again no matter what comes. Sometimes, a vivid vision arrives not as a structure but as a living tapestry, expansive, rich, and impossible to unravel. It stretches out across the landscape of possibility, each color and thread telling a story about unspoken strengths and hidden treasures. Within this boundless canvas, nothing is fragile or incomplete. The entire scene pulses with a quiet confidence, revealing layers of potential untouched by any passing shadow. In the heart of this vision, there exists a network of vibrant spaces, each one humming with unique energy, untouched by weariness or neglect. These aren't rooms but vast realms within, each charged with a different frequency: creativity, connection, intuition, generosity, and influence. Every chamber bursts with gifts waiting to be claimed, and nothing within is accidental or replaceable. This is the true inventory of inner wealth, crafted, refined, and guarded by forces beyond comprehension. Every detail has been shaped with intention, and every resource safeguarded as if it were a secret too precious for ordinary hands. The core is wrapped in a protective brilliance, so deep that no storm can touch it. Even the fiercest attempts to dismantle or disrupt are absorbed and neutralized by a reservoir of resilience that quietly grows with each test. Not a single adversary can reach the heart of what's been carefully cultivated here. They only find themselves lost at the edges, unable to breach the invisible border of grace. This place of abundance is not just meant for personal comfort or solitude, it is the starting line for purpose and impact. From here, new ventures are launched, old wounds are healed, and inspiration spills out into every sphere of influence. It's not a retreat from the world but a command center for bold action, a birthplace for vision, and a wellspring for transformation that ripples far beyond any one life. No outside force, no clever scheme, no shifting circumstance can claim what's been bestowed by a higher design. Every thread in this living masterpiece is woven with intention that transcends human effort. The proof of its permanence is found not in outward appearance, but in the undeniable sense of readiness, dignity, and possibility that radiates from within. Here, the future is not only safe, it's waiting to be shaped by hands that know their worth. There's a rare kind of perception that doesn't just react to the obvious, but quietly scans the horizon for signals others miss. An internal compass spins, tuned to shifts in the environment, sensing the invisible tremors before any real threat can take form. Surrounded by the certainty of inner safety, attention is anchored, not out of dread, but from a cultivated wisdom that has learned to spot subtle signs of approaching storms. Instead of retreating to places of isolation or denial, this awareness occupies the vantage point of clear discernment. It refuses to look away from what's unfolding, while never inviting danger closer. Others may move through their days wrapped in comfortable distractions, but this level of attentiveness refuses to let anything slip by unnoticed. Movement at the edge of awareness is monitored without fear, simply as information, an ongoing dialogue with the world outside. Such vigilance is forged not by anxiety, but by a kind of seasoned insight that sees preparedness as a form of quiet confidence. Every alert signal, every uneasy twinge, is recognized as a strength, not a burden to be hidden away. This intuitive sensing unsettles whatever forces seek to take advantage of ignorance, because nothing disrupts dark schemes more than being seen before they can act. As soon as intentions are exposed, surprise becomes impossible, and every plan loses momentum. Efforts meant to catch this spirit off guard grow more frantic as each attempt falls flat. It's as if those determined to gain ground sense that their chance is shrinking with every passing day. The pace of their approach betrays their growing anxiety, and the intensity of their focus only highlights the futility of their chase. All the while, the foundation of awareness grows deeper, becoming a wellspring of renewed confidence with every challenge faced. With each season, the roots of discernment grow stronger, anchoring identity and mission with greater certainty. The clarity that once felt like a burden now reveals itself as the greatest asset of all, a quiet shield that keeps true purpose untouched, no matter how determined the opposition becomes. And in this heightened state, wisdom not only survives but thrives, always a step ahead, always in possession of the upper hand. There's a reason adversity arrives in so many disguises, each one trying to breach the inner fortress from a different direction. Some challenges slip in close, disguised as trusted voices or familiar faces, aiming to disturb the deepest chambers of the heart. These moments are crafted to unsettle confidence and seed doubt, using proximity as their greatest advantage. The pain of betrayal, the sting of disappointment, is designed to leave an imprint that lingers, shaping how connection is approached from then on. Others arrive suddenly out of nowhere, like distant storms breaking over an unprepared landscape. They descend through circumstances impossible to predict, sometimes impacting livelihood, health, or peace of mind. Such trials seem impersonal and overwhelming, forces unleashed from the unseen, pushing security to the edge and demanding faith to hold steady in the dark. These experiences are meant to shatter stability and make hope feel unreachable. A different breed of hardship operates by wearing down resolve over time. Instead of quick destruction, these forces work patiently, repeating setbacks and disappointments until fatigue threatens to silence ambition altogether. The weight of constant pressure, persistent rejection, or endless obstacles tries to grind the spirit into surrender, not through force but through exhaustion. Sometimes, judgment comes not from the shadows, but in the harsh light of public opinion. Rumors, misunderstandings, and unfair accusations are flung into open arenas, hoping to distort reputation and corrode influence. These moments target visibility and voice, attempting to make visibility itself feel like a liability rather than a strength. Yet in every arena, resistance continues to meet an unexpected barrier. Plans that succeed elsewhere break apart here. Methods that easily undo others lose all their power. Every time opposition gathers to plot, confusion follows as nothing lands as intended. The strategies that once promised easy victory now return only frustration and bewilderment. The record of failed attempts grows longer, each one a testament to an unbreakable source of strength that grows clearer with every test. What was sent to diminish only leads to expansion, Resources flourish after famine, true allies emerge from loss, vitality returns stronger after affliction, and integrity remains intact no matter how many times it is questioned. The chaos of their planning is proof that a unique protection stands in place. Each failure becomes another reason for confidence, and the story that's written is one of unstoppable progress, resilience, and undeniable worth. When adversaries begin to argue over tactics, it's not because you're vulnerable, it's because the ordinary ways have never worked. Word travels quickly among those who wish you harm, and somewhere along the line, your reputation has become a barrier before you even arrive. Each failed attempt stacks higher, and with every new discussion, frustration grows because what typically succeeds elsewhere collapses against your presence. Resilience isn't just what you carry, it's who you are, and their confusion is proof that you move differently than the rest. Eventually, desperation breeds invention. Faced with a series of disappointments, those intent on your downfall scramble for something beyond the usual. Nothing from their arsenal leaves a dent, so they reach for a tactic designed not just to inflict pain, but to try to erase every trace, something meant to leave behind emptiness where life and legacy once stood. This is not an attempt to merely trip you up or slow your progress. It's an effort to sweep the slate clean, to collapse the architecture of your entire journey and erase even the memory of your momentum. Such an effort goes beyond the wounds of daily battles. This is the kind of opposition meant to uproot, to make recovery seem impossible, to force a return to the very beginning as though none of the victories ever happened. It's aimed not just at the surface, possessions, opportunities, reputation, but at the blueprint, the source, the essence that holds your purpose together. This is the scheme reserved for those who have withstood every other measure, a gambit that tries to close the book before another chapter can be written. But just as the shadows gather and all hope appears lost, the plan unravels. The attempt to wipe out your influence only reveals how unshakable your foundation truly is. No matter how completely the opposition attempts to dismantle the fabric of your being, there is a pulse that persists. What was intended as obliteration becomes the birthplace of renewal. From apparent loss, an even deeper strength emerges. The identity they sought to erase is written in places they cannot reach, etched in spirit, woven into the unseen. What remains when all else is stripped away is what can never be taken. An inheritance untouched by schemes, a future undimmed by sabotage, a presence that endures beyond the reach of opposition. Every extreme measure thrown in your direction only exposes the limits of those who conspire. Even their final act, the one designed for total erasure, cannot touch what has been set in motion by something greater. Their last strategy becomes the ultimate evidence that what you carry is truly indestructible. There's something about the presence of true greatness that unsettles those who operate in shadows. When opponents assemble their rarest and most formidable tactics, it's never against the ordinary. These are maneuvers reserved for the highest stakes, launched only when someone's influence and potential threaten to tip the balance in ways that can't be ignored. The magnitude of resistance you face is just a reflection of the magnitude of light you carry. As their efforts escalate to levels reserved for existential threats, there comes a moment of anticipated impact, a breaking point where everything is supposed to unravel. But the moment arrives, and their most elaborate device refuses to function. Every trigger, every calculation, every move fails to initiate the outcome they had plotted. The mechanism stalls, the momentum fizzles, and all their power evaporates into nothing. This is the unmistakable proof of an unseen shelter, a defense woven so deeply into your existence that it activates precisely when the stakes are highest. The shield is not one of chance, but the result of inner resolve, persistent hope, and a life aligned with a greater design. The harder the challenge, the stronger the barrier, the closer the threat, the more unreachable your essence becomes. Attempts to disrupt your journey simply highlight how unreachable your core purpose truly is. It's as if, at the very edge of collapse, an invisible threshold appears, one that cannot be crossed by malice, envy, or sabotage. Those on the outside are forced to acknowledge the reality. What they oppose is surrounded by forces far beyond their understanding, barriers forged from unseen determination and unwavering connection to something higher. Even the fiercest adversaries recognize the truth. The lengths they go to, the energy spent in trying to devise something that could finally make you yield, only proves their quiet fear. They can sense the strength that radiates from within, a kind of armor that can't be mapped or outmaneuvered. What they try to undo with cunning and force instead becomes another testament to a protection that will not allow your downfall, no matter how complex or final their strategies may seem. Their attempts to erase what was built with heaven's blueprint have failed, not because they lack strategy but because what you carry can't be dismantled by human effort. There is an echo around you, one that reaches into places that wish they could mute your frequency, but they can't. They speak your name not with reverence but with exhaustion. Not because they admire you but because they can't undo you. They've thrown every disruption they could engineer and still your presence stays rooted. That's when they switch tactics. If they can't bring the structure down, they try to distort the image of it. They turn to distortion campaigns, misquotes, false reflections, altered perceptions. This isn't collapse, it's cosmetic interference. What's under the noise is still holy, still intact, still unshaken. They're not collapsing walls, they're throwing shadows. They're not detonating your identity, they're smudging the mirrors around you. But mirrors can be wiped. Shadows don't stain. What you've been entrusted with doesn't dissolve under gossip, doesn't disintegrate under mislabeling. Let them twist the lens. Truth doesn't blink. You are not under reconstruction. You are under preservation. There's a kind of resilience that doesn't scream, it hums quietly beneath the surface, refusing to collapse. Some forces tried to tamper with that hum, hoping their interference would silence what was placed in you. But the damage they caused didn't reach the circuitry. It only smudged the surface panels. Beneath the dust and interference, the original design remains unchanged. The essence is untouched. And that's what they underestimated, how easily clarity can return when you're aligned with a higher architect. The interference was loud but shallow. It left streaks across the view but not a single fracture in the structure. And now, options are unfolding in ways they never expected. What seemed like irreversible marks can be recalibrated with new data, fresh frequencies, alternate downloads. This isn't the end of the system, it's a software update. A simple override of corrupted signals. What they thought would be permanent has already begun dissolving under the force of divine recalibration. Restoration didn't require demolition. No tearing down. No starting over. Just a quiet rearrangement of internal energy, like a tuning fork finding the right pitch again. And as that frequency settles, the exterior begins to respond. Not because the noise stopped, but because the inner code never changed. Renewal doesn't come from removing the scars. It comes from proving they never reached the blueprint. This is the part they couldn't calculate. They thought interference would be irreversible. They believed contamination would be the end. But they forgot. Energy that was set apart can't be absorbed by chaos. It filters out the noise and re-emerges with upgraded clarity. They were aiming to create a glitch in your atmosphere. Instead, they accidentally activated a reset. The protection around what's sacred isn't flashy. It's not loud, but it works. And when the dust settles and the air clears, the original brilliance returns. Not repainted, not replaced, reclarified. That's where the power lives. In the ability to absorb impact without losing identity. In the silent, sacred confidence that what was encoded in you cannot be corrupted, even if the surface gets cloudy.